Hi, welcome to Candor Beach. Today, Sailesh and I are going to be talking to you about the dark side of AI. So Sailesh, question one, will AI cost us jobs?
Yeah, it's going to cost certain jobs, but I think it's going to also create, other jobs, because whoever who is going to be trained on AI, the models and everything, they're going to have a job.
Wait, what
So,
kind of models are you talking about?
like, you, you know, you have to train the AI, right? So the training
Oh,
models,
so large
people
language models, not super models.
that,
Okay, sorry.
yeah, so those are the ones who are gonna, be in high demand. Nowadays, you have colleges which offer uh, AI as a major along in engineering, computer science engineering.
But
So
what
they
is
are.
AI? I mean, at the end of the day, if you could break, I know we've done a session on AI as well. We've already done an episode on that. But just as a quick preamble, what is AI? As I understand it, AI is essentially machine language, machine
Mhm,
learning, oops, sorry, ML,
mhm.
machine learning that helps make predictions.
It's just not about predictions. It's a self-conscious being. It
How
can
so?
function itself. It can answer your questions. It can do most what sentient beings can do.
When you say self-conscious, like if I swore at it, would I hurt its feelings?
Mhm. It will reply just like how how, like, let's say, how if you hurt somebody else's feelings, like a real human being, how would they reply? AI also replies.
It depends upon whether the person's understood me or not. It depends upon
Sure.
whether the person knows that I am, let's say, being abusive towards it or not. How does
Yeah, I
an
mean,
AI recognize that when, like, if I'm trained on, sorry,
your demeanor and your questioning can also create that response from the artificial intelligence.
yeah, but how?
So they are trained on these models, right? So they actually train these artificial intelligence systems with psychology. So how would a person react in a certain case? How are, they have enough knowledge? I mean, they crunch so much data from almost the historical psychological experiments are all online.
It brings up this interesting question, like if a child was never taught what it meant to be sworn at or what abusive language even meant, they wouldn't
Mhm.
comprehend that they needed to take offense. Like we've been taught to take offense to certain things. So what you're
Exactly.
getting at is AI has been taught, needed to be taught, has been taught to take offense to certain conversations, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back, if you read the history about how ChatGPT was created, in the early days, basically it takes about $100,000 to train this AI
Hmm.
to per day, $100,000 per day. So that's why initially they were
Small money.
needing Elon Musk's backing. Elon came up with $1 billion in backing, and they had their issues. The founders, Sam Altman, all of them had their issues with Elon. So that's why Elon had to pull out, and he with him $1 billion was gone. So
So
eventually,
what was Elon's issue? Like I understand that Elon's been very vociferous with the whole AI space. I will weigh in and say that in another podcast, he talked about how he's not bearish about AI. He thinks that AI is fantastic. It's got great potential, but there are, like the topic of the conversation today, there is a dark side to it. If you could elucidate.
yeah. So Elon originally what he wanted to keep OpenAI basically was he wanted to keep it nonprofit. He didn't want for profit. So when you have make it for profit, all the evils of capitalism will come into it, and you can be swayed because somebody else is paying the money. So Elon wanted to strictly keep it, what do you call
Communal?
um No, nonprofit, and basically keep it open source. But that actually there has advantages and disadvantages. So what happened was, if you keep it open source, it's a hacker's paradise. You can take this software, like artificial intelligence, and tweak it to whatever you want to, and break into any kind of security network. That
Right.
is a security risk OpenAI didn't want to take. So when Elon
Understood.
left,
So Elon's
uh,
primary concern was it was like OpenAI's direction, contrary to
mhm.
the name of their company, their position was to keep it closed.
I mean, no. The originally was open source. Now it's not
Right.
open source anymore because they didn't want to give up the full potential of artificial intelligence to potential hackers. So that was the concern. So um, I was I remember watching the interview of Elon. He asked Larry Page, do you really think do you treat digital intelligence, that is artificial intelligence, uh, to be treated as same as biological intelligence? And Larry Page goes, yes, I do, which is
Right.
which is fascinating. What about you? What do you think? Do you think they should be treated the same?
I mean, this is beyond the anchoring that you may have just done because Larry Page is a very successful billionaire. I
Hmm.
believe so as well. And here's why. We have over, I don't want to say millennia, but let's say like ever since we've domesticated animals, yeah, we have
Hmm.
accorded a certain degree of value to, let's say, what a dog feels, what a dog eats, what a dog does. Like there are entire Instagram pages dedicated to domesticated pets. We care about what they do, how they think, how they've behaved in a specific way. Similarly, like with children as well, and I don't want to sound anti-child, I'm not, but uh, a child at the end of the day is not you. I understand that they are they were created off of you, like if you were the parent, and you have this deep rooted biological drive to protect and teach and have basically a progeny to move forth and carry on your name, so to say. But that
Yeah.
child is not you. It does not have. It is not your conscience at the end of the day. And therein, like if I have, as a human being, accorded that to a child, to animals, to take to certain animals, to the work I have done. Like if I spent 5 months, 6 months on, let's say, if I created something, a piece, a piano piece, and then you came in and criticized it, I am going to want to defend it, like involuntarily. Like I spent time on that work. So if I have accorded, or if I can accord importance to a piece of work, to an animal, which does not share the same intellect as a human being, to human beings, to children, then for sure, artificial intelligence that provides equal or greater utility or some utility is also going to be, to me, perceived as something that has value and therefore should be accorded with the same rights or what have you as some individuals of biological intellect. I don't know if I've answered your question.
So I would say digital intelligence and biological intelligence should not be treated the same. I'll give you an example why. So let's say we are a few years down the lane. Artificial intelligence is really good, and so it goes on social media and creates an article. Let's say artificial intelligence creates an article. It makes it so well that it can influence political ideology of people. So in a way, supporting something which it wants to support. So that should, in that case, you are actually influencing elections. So artificial intelligence can, eventually down the lane, can influence elections.
Yeah,
Writing,
but the FBI did exactly that, or they've been accused of doing exactly that, haven't they? Like
yeah.
when they reached out to social media platforms and asked them not to. I shouldn't say FBI as an organization, but individuals within the organization acted in much the same manner.
Yeah, that is election interference, which shouldn't be done.
Which
But
your use case is what a human being has done, and therefore I should hold AI by the same laws, right? Like I should hold them accountable for that action.
how can you hold them? How can you hold AI accountable in that case? You cannot. It's you.
No,
How are you going to
so
punish it? There's no
so
punishment.
let me take a step back and say that because I am according AI with the same, like my stance is that AI and biological intellect needs to be accorded with this with similar standards. Yeah, that was the original question. That was my answer. What I'm saying here is what you've just in your scenario where AI has created election interference. I think the act in itself is incorrect, should not have been done, and therefore needs to be treated with the same severity as if a human being did it. Because when human beings did it, they were held responsible. People lost their jobs. People, like, we took it into cognizance and tried to create safeguards against that so that election interference does not occur in the future. And therefore, should be accorded similarly, no?
Yeah, but how are you going to punish AI? Let's say if it does,
No
there's
internet. No internet for a month. I don't
cut.
know. I don't know how you could punish AI, but no, there are ways in which you can do it. So when it comes to generating things, at the end of the day, in terms of using a large language model, it's all about probability, because when you're creating sequences, it's about what is the most probabilistic response to get to a specific sequence. I am a, and then you have a sequence of words that could follow it. I am a boy, man, girl, if I'm gender fluid, whatever. It depends. Yeah. So there are probabilistic responses, and the AI is going to pick the things that have the highest probabilistic response. That's how it constructs sentences. That's how it essentially thinks, which is similar to what human beings do. With us, we have this angle wherein we also get bored, and therefore we choose to maybe step up our responses, change our responses to suit our moods. AI does not have a mood per se, but if I wanted AI to give me a more nuanced response or a more creative response, I could set a penalty such that I reduce that probabilistic value. It is not to say it hurts AI in any which way, but it does lose access to the mean or the median, whichever is relevant in this particular case. Now, if I start penalizing AI such that for every error it does, it loses a chunk of resources, or it loses access to a specific model. It can no longer access this. And the AI has the ability to compare itself with another AI or another individual, because you said the AI is conscious.
Yeah.
Comparison is an offshoot of a consciousness, essentially. So if an AI is conscious and we teach it to compare, and I deprive it of resources, then I'm punishing it, and it will recognize it as punishment, and then it'll come back for me with, like, as Skynet did.
You got to be in a cave.
I'm going to have to hide out in a cave. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on a tangential. So let's say that's the case. You remember when Facebook AI, I think it was 3 years back, Facebook AI had to shut down because it's created its own language to, communicate between different machines. So that
Because it was
that
more efficient.
that's in itself.
Right, but because it was more efficient, is that why it did it?
No, it didn't make any sense for humans when they read the language. It was just gibberish, but it started communicating with other machines using that language, like a completely. I mean, it's English, but it started non-binary language, so it's not ones and
So
zeros.
so long as it's not non-binary genders.
Let's
Sorry.
not go there. So, yeah, I
Different
mean
topic.
that is something scary. You never know. It might become self-aware and start attacking humans in a way that it created its own language.
Right, which was what Elon Musk brought up, right? Like he talked about how those were the dangers of AI that we need to safeguard against. Like AI is good. AI is going to be very, very useful to mankind, but you have to have, and as many stress marks as possible on this, you have to have safeguards in place. There has to be a kill switch for sure. Like Skynet had a kill switch. At least that's what Terminator 2 taught me. But or
Mm.
was it three? I forget. I lost count after the fourth, fifth. I don't know
Yeah,
how many Terminators are there.
I mean it
But
keeps on generating itself. Like, yeah, but once it becomes on cloud, how are you gonna have it have a kill switch? It goes universal. It's like the blockchain. You cannot kill the blockchain.
yes, and I just had this thought. We were talking about this the other day when we were originally discussing this topic, the dark side of AI. Worm GPT. So now that ChatGPT and the concept of AI has existed for decades now. China's been working on it since the 80s. There are people who are working with nefarious intention on their own large language models, on their own GPTs of sorts. And there is the worm GPT that recently came to light that people were talking about how you can write phishing emails, you can persuade individuals to cough up money.
Mm.
There are security hazards, obviously, that worm GPT can facilitate, so to say. What if these things are already out there? These things are already, I would say, omnipresent, ubiquitous.
Yeah, I
What does
mean,
it matter if I have another AI that does something? Like
like
the idea is not to limit AI as a whole, but the idea is to make sure that there are AI or there is AI. I don't know how AI associates itself just yet. Like I don't know if it's a they, them, or a he, she, it just yet. But I'm assuming the singular. I would like for AI to be on our side as well. I would like for AI to be there to protect us when there is and there will probably be AI attacks.
no, my question is like, what if AI becomes decentralized? How are you going to stop it then? Like, it
Have
become
AI on my side as well, which can counteract, like a counter-terrorism AI. I'm
um
not switching to Counter-Strike games.
maybe
It's
maybe
legitimate.
that might work, but see, it works on, let's say, decentralization works on the processing power, right? So let's say if, AI becomes decentralized and the higher processing power, well, it moves into wherever there's higher processing power. So if you don't have that much processing power, it's going to overpower you.
No, I understand what you're getting at. It is already hard to shut down AI. I think that was what I was trying to get at when I said that there are people with nefarious intent that are working on AI. So you've already lost control of you. There is no way of you controlling the narrative of AI. What I'm getting at is since that is not a possibility, that is already out of our hands, create AI that will protect you, that AI whose sole purpose is to protect you, to safeguard you. That is how I would counteract decentralization, being uploaded to clouds and what have you, with
So,
AI that protects me.
so on that side note, if that's the case, will you like make a digital print of yourself, like have a digital consciousness, upload it to the cloud and let AI be your digital, like even after you
My
stop
digital
existing?
protector.
Yeah, a digital Ashish, so
I think, and I'm going to answer your question, I think that there will be in the future scenarios where I have AI that is unique to me. So there will be a digital Ashish of sorts. There will be something that, like, as I grow, as I invest in this AI also grows, and as it almost becomes like one of those computer games, right? Like you accumulate armor, you accumulate better weapons and technologies. But I think that is going to happen where you can improve your own AI. It doesn't have to be communal all the time, right? Like there are going to be instances where if you're living in a capitalistic economy, there are chances that there are going to be capitalistic principles that proliferate within the system, creating, let's say, individualistic AIs. Bottom line, there will be a digital AI. There will be, and there is nothing I can do about that. I will continue to feed it. I will continue to grow it. Circling back to your original, the first question, right? Like, are they the same? Like, is artificial intelligence, can they be equated with biological intelligence? I think that is a scenario that we are going to be faced with in the very near future. And I would protect it. But in terms of uploading my own conscience, if it gives me the feeling that it's extending my life, then absolutely not. Like Einstein said, right? Like, do not resuscitate. I'm 100% in that camp.
Not resuscitate, but never said nothing about his uploading his consciousness online.
If you make him feel like he's going to continue to live on for eternity, then I feel like the human experience is mitigated. Immortality, unlike what Voldemort, a key figure in human history, unlike Voldemort who pursued immortality, I don't think immortality is all that it's cut out to be. You want an end. If there is no end, then it's just chapter after chapter after chapter. It gets boring.
Sure. I want to be like Hancock.
You keep forgetting your previous life? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so I mean, sure, why not? Why not upload your consciousness online? That's, like, I think that is your opinion, but I think a lot of people want to upload their consciousness online and let artificial intelligence take over their consciousness, and you're gonna exist for a long period of, like, till that AI model dies.
So here's another thought. When you write a book or you create a work of art, like Van Gogh's paintings, as an example, or Shakespeare's plays, isn't that, in a sense, a piece of their conscience that exists until eternity?
Sure.
But it does not give them the sense that they are living forever. Their work has lived on forever, which is great. So if my conscience does that for me, wherein it preserves the work or the contributions that I have made to humanity, I'm all for it. Like, that's fantastic. But if it makes me feel like I'm living longer, it's going to suffocate me.
Well,
how about you? What are your thoughts?
I don't mind. Live forever.
All right. I think there was this game, right? Future Cop, where the antagonist would go like, "I live again."
No, that's, I mean,
could be your future.
It's a thought, it's like a lot of people, like, I know people who
How would you participate though? How would you participate in society? Like, say your conscience has been uploaded. You physically may not have access to changing your environment. You're just there. What then?
So you're gonna see something like, for example, you remember, like a Oppenheimer movie, right? So we go back.
The one we watched together? Yes, I do remember.
Yeah. I mean, we can see what, let's say, if Einstein was uploaded and there's a digital print of him, we could go back and ask that consciousness, like Einstein consciousness, how well this movie is it close to the reality? And the consciousness might come back and tell us, yo, is it very close or not really close?
All right, but would the conscience have a choice on seeing that? I don't want to comment on this. Like, as an example, when Oppenheimer went up to Einstein in the movie and asked him to ratify the calculations that they'd made, and Einstein Einstein at that point in time chose not to do it? Would the conscience, the uploaded digital conscience, have a choice?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Maybe, maybe not. That depends on how the AI is trained.
Thanks. My conscience thought of it itself. I don't know.
Well,
Like if I'm losing control, I
hmm,
think I would much rather just
okay.
perish completely.
Well, I think that's about it. That's all I wanted to ask you about.
Thanks. Well, I have no further questions for you at this point in time because honestly, this is a rabbit hole that we can dive into.
Yeah, think
Consciousness, should AI be equated with biological intelligence? We didn't actually talk about how AI can harm people, did we? We talked about jobs. What about
I mean,
biases? What about biases? Like there's job displacement, of course, but what about biases? What about like you also talked about the whole we were talking about the whole AI that once it's decentralized, once it's uploaded to the cloud, can do whatever it feels like. I was talking about safeguards. Like, can you elaborate on potential threats that AI can produce?
yeah. So you remember, there was a skin color bias. You know, the AI had bias. There were multiple biases. So it
The biases
creates.
against gender. There was
Yeah.
biases where women weren't hired for whatever reason.
So, for example, let's say AI is in control of hiring practices,
Mm.
and that model is actually trained on, only Caucasian group of people. So it's going to have a bias towards, the other skin color of people. So that is another major important thing, that the training models have to be the AI have
Diverse
to be
and large. The larger it
diverse.
is, the better.
Exactly.
Sure.
Those are those are stuff which are need to be taken into account with regards to AI training.
Here's another thing. Like our parents have, from at least my parents have from time to time talked about how there is a certain degree of skill erosion, like because their generation had to do things that we don't have to. If you look at
Yeah,
the future generation, because of the technology, let's say because of calculators, like in the like today, it's a very valid question. Like, why do I have to sit and learn the like when I was preparing for the CAT and the GMAT, I learned how to work out math quickly. Like speed math techniques was something that I focused on. So I could tell you like 98 square is 9604, 99 square is 9801, practically committed to memory. Now, if I have a calculator, do I really need to do that? And in the future, now, if I have AI and I do have I don't have to think about writing essays anymore. I just have to tweak what AI is produced, which is what I was talking to you about when I said that if we have personalized AI, like the AI
mm.
could write in my style, like I could develop it, train it such that it understands my style. And then I, as an individual, no longer have to work. That AI can do all my work for me. I think that
Yeah,
is going to pose a significant risk to human beings because they don't have to think for themselves. Sorry, not they. We don't have to think for ourselves anymore. We are not going to be able to. We, sorry, say that again.
we don't have to think about ourselves.
Yeah, we don't
Human
have to
being.
think about ourselves. There was also this question that I think a former Google employee had brought up. I, I'm not like don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But the question was basically an extension of the trolley problem. Like if you have a self-driving car and for whatever reason, like there are children in front of you and you have to take evasive action, but your evasive action is into a truck which has, I don't know, is
Yeah,
carrying LPG.
ethical part, ethical
Yeah, like
decision
the
making.
the trolley problem basically. Like how
Yeah,
does it sort that out? That's
yeah,
and who's going to be accountable for it? Like the person who, if this was ride sharing, like am I accountable for it because this was my Uber? Like I paid for the ride, or the person who programmed it, or the company that leased the services of the AI? Who's
Um,
responsible at the end of the day?
I think the person who trained the AI, that's the person who should take the responsibility.
But if I trained the AI, but I didn't have access to a certain kind of data, and the AI, like you had said a few sentences back, is only as good as, when you were talking about the diversity in hiring, is only
Mhm.
as good as the data set that it's trained on. If I didn't have
Yeah,
access, why is it my fault? How can you hold me accountable?
yeah. This is probably we should have another podcast just on the ethical decision making of AI.
Maybe because ethics and morality, in my opinion, are so debatable. They shouldn't
Yeah.
be. Ideally, there should be a clear route. But at the end of the day, I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of streams that needs to be analyzed. So sure, like I will take that challenge up. What about, we've talked about security risks, privacy, obviously, like security and privacy, I think go hand in hand. There's every possibility for us to, like worm GPT we were just talking about, to launch a hacking attack and steal data. I
The
could also.
try was created on automated AI tool. The ransomware which came in 21, it was like ransomware was actually created because of using an AI tool.
Right, and if we, I was also thinking like Orwellian future wise, like if we do get to a point where we are, for security purposes, using facial identity, face recognition, like cameras everywhere, all around the public, like what we've heard China has in certain places,
Yeah.
then you can use AI to target individuals. Like if I have spoken up against the government, what is stopping the government from targeting me and inconveniencing me, or throwing in a green light for me to walk across, and throwing in a green light for the traffic and saying, oops, there was a malfunction. I'm sorry you died. It wasn't,
So
that
there
was the
was
tech.
instance of deep fake created by they created an Obama deep fake, which was actually uploaded and it made a huge ruckus back in I think it was 2 years ago. It was perfectly you can look at the video and it was just how Obama was talking and the exact demeanor and everything. So
I
these
looked up
be very very dangerous too.
I looked up So when I was looking up potential security risks, I found this one instance where they said, oh, you can recognize ransomware by grammatical errors or spelling mistakes or some
Mm,
deviations from the norm in specific writing. Now, I said you could have AI for good, right? Like I could have AI trained such that it reads through this and tells me whether it's error free or not. My AI has Grammarly built in, as an
yeah,
example.
radical errors.
Yeah, but what is stopping the attacker from doing the same thing? Like
Yeah,
the
that's
attacker knows that this is a step that I'm going to take, and therefore safeguards against that by fixing it and then sending it to me. Like that's a no-brainer.
yeah. Um, that that's why they said like the attacker can use deepfakes to even like probably get into different systems like spoof.
Deepfake can also, like the good part about AI, like with video and audio generation is I could make like this particular podcast, this speech in English could be translated into French, into Telugu, into 100 different languages. I'm
Yeah,
Bengali. I don't know why Bengali didn't come to my mind.
East South India.
um, yeah, yeah. Like these languages could just come out, and like I could have AI recreate our conversation with accurate lip movement
Hmm.
and proper grammar to these other languages. And that's a good thing for when you're trying to get your message across to the masses. But it can also help terrorists reach out to bigger groups. It can also help, like we were talking about deepfake. It could also, like with the Obama thing, right? Like
Yeah.
spread news that isn't true. Like imagine if if you did one of Trump. Trump is already in the news about over aggressiveness with certain in certain conversations. His group has a part of his group has been radicalized to attack Capitol Hill, or well, march on Capitol Hill. Like, let's not call it an attack. And what if there was a deep fake of Trump? That is a great risk, clearly.
It can be a great risk for election interference, as we spoke. With an advertisement of deep fake, basically, that can be risky.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to circle back and say we need AI for good. We need AI to protect a semblance of society as we know it. And that is it. I think I'm going to conclude with that. We need AI to protect ourselves. We need. I realize that AI can be very particularly quite harmful. We need AI on our side.
Yeah, I think accountability is needed. Like we need to figure out who should be accountable if they make a mistake. If an AI makes a mistake, who the people who trained or who trained it, or the people who are, using it. So depending on that, that's what I conclude on.
A bit random, but all right. I'll take it. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.